Hello everybody, welcome to 1v1 Boss Rush Games interview series here on bossrushgames.com and your podcast service of choice. I am your host, Corey Dirrig, and alongside me for this 1v1 is that retro code, Eddie V, Edward Varnell.
Hello everybody, how are we doing today?
Wow, Ed, good job. Great job. It's like you've never podcasted before in your life.
Yes, I have done multiple shows. And still do.
Oh man, how's it going, Ed? Are you ready for this? This is our brand new show that we are debuting here on the Boss Rush podcast feed and on YouTube and our website. Are you ready for this? You are the very first episode.
I am elated. I'm so happy for it to be interviewed. Yes. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Normally, I think it would be the reverse, where Ed would be hosting and I would just be kind of producing and kind of doing stuff on the side, making sure everything's running smoothly for our guests. But since Ed can't really interview himself, I took it upon myself. Since Ed has become one of my best friends in this world, that I would just, interview him and see where the night takes us. 1v1, like I said, interview show going up on our Boss Rush podcast feed on Fridays, every other Friday for now. And if we get more guests that want to be a part of this, or we, get more interviews or whatever, we'll try to do it weekly. But for now, it's going to be every other week. So our first 4 episodes are going to be Ed, then myself, then Jesse, then Ray. I know Antonio Guillen is another guest that we have lined up for this, and we have a few others. So basically what we're going to do is talk about, how we started making content, what inspired us, and, how we feel as someone who is trying to get their foot in this very, very large space industry that we call the internet. So, Ed, I met you in a comment thread on the Nintendo voice chat forums, the IGN Nintendo podcast.
Yes.
And we kind of became acquaintances that way, commenting and stuff. And, I was doing stuff with DNA, the DNA network at the time, and we were talking about a Nintendo show for that network. But of course, I was doing that show or doing that stuff with a movie buff, a hardcore Destiny player, and a hardcore PC games player. And no offense to any of them, but none of them are very good at talking about Nintendo stuff. let's be honest. So we tried a few things that way, and then I just asked you if you wanted to Nintendo with me, and that's kind of how it started. But for you started way before that. When did you start with? Because you were doing the moment on Skirmish Frogs, you're doing Optional Opinion, you're doing a bunch of stuff before we even met. So how tell me about your content beginnings, right? Like what was your first thing? Where was it? What were you doing? Tell me.
So this goes way back, probably around later, about 2005, 2006, before I even got into podcasting and creating content. I have always been a big fan of Electronic Gaming Monthly, better known as EGM.
Weren't we all?
And yes, and even GamePro. And my mom would buy the magazines because we'd be at Walgreens, and I always asked her to get one per month. Never subscribed to her or anything. And then Ziff Davis, who were the owners of EGM, they got onto the internet, and later on the OneUp.com came. And so OneUp ended up being a place where people from different parts around the world could come together and start writing blogs and writing, telling their gaming stories and everything. So I ended up actually just going on there and writing content, personal content. And even though One Up is now closed and shut down and the website's not there anymore, I was always doing a lot of writing. One of my passions was writing about stuff, and I played many games and stuff. I couldn't really talk to anybody about it, so I kind of just wrote, and I actually met one of my friends, Justin Villarreal. He had his own network. The Anomalous Radio Network, and he kind of got me into podcasts because we started talking about games, and so he told me what equipment to get, like how podcasting and stuff goes, and I was like, I got into it. I was just like being able to talk about my podcast. Funny thing though, there used to be like UView or U-Turn or something like that, a U-Page or something like that, and I would do video podcasts of Optional Opinion, and I would be there for like about 15 to 30 minutes just talking about random stuff. But that's kind of how I ended up started listening actually to OneUp.com and their podcast and watching the One Up show. And it was just very entertaining and liberating to, be able to make content about video games. Because I feel like now my voice could be heard since I can't spread my voice around my city and things like that. So it grew all the way from up there. And just like you said, we met on Facebook and the Nintendo Voice Chat thing. And I became a fan of the Digital Nerds Advocate, DNA. And when you asked me if I wanted to host a podcast with you, Nintendo Pod Block, I jumped at the moment that I could. And there's some episodes that you guys don't see me if you would go like way back and you see older videos.
Yeah, I mean, like how Pow Block started was it was going to be like a 10-minute segment on just a YouTube show, right? Like that's what it's called. I mean, other than the play on the Pow Block, which is famous from like the original Mario Brothers game, right? Like the point was like it was going to be a 10-minute block of just Nintendo content on the channel, and we had questions come in, and I had my friend Joey read these questions to me, and I would answer them, but it wasn't really like a conversation, and it didn't like as much as I love Joey, I still talk to him to this day, right? I just talked to him the other day.
He's amazing.
It wasn't really like a real heartfelt Nintendo conversation, right? It was more of like a bit type thing, like it was more of like a bit instead of a podcast. And I wanted it to grow, and like we had for DNA we had an amazing community that it was awesome, right? And like that's how Nerds Gone Rogue started. Was it was going to be our online community podcast for DNA, where we were going to have our members of the community on to talk about games in a way that maybe they weren't comfortable with starting their own, because like starting something is kind of like it's kind of overwhelming for people, right? Like it's kind of, I want to do something, but this is kind of overwhelming to start. Where do I start? How do I start? That kind of thing. And I wanted it to be a way for people who were interested in podcasting to come on and talk, right? And
yes,
as our online community grew and Nerds Gone Rogue grew, Pow Block kind of transformed into the Nintendo podcast you guys know today. And it didn't start out great, but like, because I mean, Ed and I, when we started, Ed and I had only been talking back and forth sporadically for like a couple weeks, right? And
yes.
But you know, as it grew, it became what it is now, and yeah, the rest is history. But we can get into that on another on another conversation. But yeah, I'm glad you said yes, because Nintendo Power Block is far and away my favorite piece of content that we've ever done. Like for any whatever network it's ever been a part of. Like, you know, even now, as much as I love like Boss Rush podcasts and talking to Ray and Jesse and everything, like Nintendo Power Block always just feels like
home.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Well, I've always grew up on Nintendo as a kid, and you know, one of my three systems that I didn't completely own, but I played on, was the Atari 7200, the Sega Master System, and the NES. And I played it as a kid, so I got exposure to a lot of games. But Nintendo was always the one I was running to. Nintendo was the one that gave me my video game skills, and so my love for the company just continued to grow and grow and grow. And sometimes it's been controversial with some things, some people, but it kind of shows like my dedication and my love to Nintendo. Not all of their games hit with everybody, but people know that I fight for them, and for Nintendo games, and I kind of love what they try to do to change up the landscape of how gaming is. And I always, that's why I always feel like Nintendo is my number one company, because yes, they want to do fun, but I always feel like they want to be innovative. They want to try different things, and they want to change the view on how games are made and played, you know. And I guess as a, you know, growing up as a kid and growing as a teen, I always stuck to Nintendo. My brother stuck to Sega, but I will always play on his system. Actually, I beat more of his library before he beat anything of mine. I think he may have beat like 2 games on the Super Nintendo, and pretty much everything that he had on his system, I beat him. Besides like Joe Montana and Joe Montana 2. But you know, my love for Nintendo just grew, so I think that's why I have a history with them over all the games, and why I kind of love Switch and every system that they came out. Why I love Wii U, why I love Wii, why I talk about their online system, and you know, why people who might find some of my opinions difficult to understand, I would say that. I put those out so I could change people's perspective. And yes, there's ways to challenge them, but there's ways to be like, oh, okay, I could see where he goes, because I didn't even think about that. I was thinking one way, but his view and his opinion opened up another way to have a conversation about something. And so when you ask me about Nintendo Power Block, I found like, of course, I found like my best friend. You know, it's just like I have a friend who also loves Nintendo, who geeks out about video games and geeks about Nintendo. He wants to do a podcast with me. Yes, let's do this. Let's go all in. And this is kind of what we build and everything.
I know, and you know, like. Even if I disagree with you on a lot of things, I will defend you because you're my friend, right? And I think that's what's important. I think that's why our show is as successful as it is, to be honest with you. You know, like I'm kind of surprised is the wrong word, but I'm kind of like impressed at, you know, not only Power Block's growth since we started, right, but like,
yes, we
stopped Power Block. Well, for the first time we took a little bit of a break because scheduling, right, like we were our schedules were all over the place and we couldn't get an episode in, so we took a little bit of a break. But we stopped Power Block to form the NX show, which is what a lot of people know now as Boss Rush Podcast.
Yes,
because we wanted Jesse in there, right? And you know, I asked Ray to come on the show to be like a fourth chair, and he did. And like, I wanted that to be like a big discussion podcast of just games, and everybody was in there. But the overwhelming amount of people who were not only upset that the show was ending, but were like verbally mad that we ended Pow Block to do this new thing was just a sign that we needed to keep it going, right?
And bring it back.
I think it only took about 8 or 9 episodes before you and I were like, yeah, we need to come back as Pow Block, because you know it's what people want. And like, you know, I feel bad that like Jesse and Ray aren't like really a part of it anymore, but they still are, right? But like,
yes,
Boss Rush podcast is like when all 4 of us get together to talk about it. We don't have to limit our conversation based on the show we're doing, which is kind of like what Pow Block and Arsenal X were. So
yes, and those shows, Arsenal X and Pow Block, were specific shows dedicated to those brands,
right?
To Microsoft and to Nintendo. And don't forget, we used to have a PlayStation podcast before Nerds Gone Platinum. And even though we had various discussions on that one, it was always good to be like...
We actually had 2 PlayStation podcasts.
That is true.
If you remember DNA, we started a PlayStation podcast called Dual Shocked.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it was you, me, and Adam.
Yeah.
From way back then. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it may sound like I didn't like Sony, or I didn't, wasn't really for the Sony.
That's not true though, because you were a bigger PS3 fan than you were a 360 fan.
Exactly, and which leads it to my Venture Beat days. And the reason I say Venture Beat days is because, and a little bit of IGN, when I used to do some more blogs and stuff, because I couldn't do One Up anymore, I went to Venture Beat and started writing for their community, and kind of had some like top 5 blogs of the week and stuff. And I wrote a piece about not liking the 360, and it was never about the games. And I think that's what a lot of people really got pissed off of that. They got pissed off about that and Grand Theft Auto 5, but that's for another day.
Remember how when you wrote the Red Dead piece for Dirt's Gone Rogue, remember how many people were mad at you for that too?
This is the weird thing about the Red Dead piece and even the 360 piece. Let me touch on the Red Dead piece. I gave Red Dead Redemption 2 pretty much a 3. I think
it's a fair score.
Right, and don't forget, at that time, on Nerds Gone Rogue, and people could go read it if you can find it. We didn't have a review score at all. I always did my personal review score and what I literally thought about it. Don't care about how the... Yes, the Yoshi coins. And those kind of represented any kind of score. If you want to put a numeric score, you could have, and everything. But it was always something that I kind of felt like, you know what, I wish sometimes Rockstar would change things up, because some of their stuff feels copy and paste, and a lot of their design feels broken. Yes, they had a beautiful world. Yes, what they did in the intro was kind of nice, but it led to some problems to it that I had to point out. I didn't say that the game was bad or anything. It just didn't live up to the expectations that I kind of hold Rockstar to be like, are you going to deliver me something different, or is this going to be a Grand Theft Auto clone? And pretty much, if you, regardless of sales and everything, if you really look at a lot of people, how they viewed it, they kind of felt the sentiment that I was saying about this game. And even though people were really mad at me about my review for Red Dead Redemption 2, some of them didn't even pick it up. And people who did try it gave up on it. So it was kind of weird to be like, why is my review so, so looked upon as something bad when you guys or gals or gamers or players weren't going to give it a try? In every game that I reviewed and did, I went out and bought myself physical copy, and I would do my best to play it all the way through. When I did my 360 piece on Venture Beat, I talked about the hardware. I never talked bad about the games. I talked about the hardware. And I kind of felt like in that position, Microsoft, yes, you do have a next gen console, but your generation, I feel like their generation really didn't start to the 360 Slim, where after 4 systems, 4 chips, y'all finally got around to having a stable system. I've never, besides PlayStation 1, or even a little bit of PlayStation 2, I had to do anything to make sure that my machine wouldn't overheat or to even get it working. Why are people wrapping a towel around? What's this red ring of death? Why is it always happening on all of these consoles from 360? So people keep buying the system, giving Microsoft more money, and they return policy and fixing policy, which is bad. So people got mad at me because they felt like I hated 360. I didn't hate it. I just didn't like the fact that Microsoft, as a software and hardware company, didn't have that system right to go. I think Xbox One is a great system.
Yeah, I mean, even like, say what you will about that original Xbox One, like they made sure they over-engineered the crap out of that box to make sure they didn't have a 360 situation again, right? And
yeah,
I think the S and the X are beautiful consoles, right?
Yes,
and I know the Series X is coming out this fall as of this recording. Like, I think that's it's an interesting design choice, to be honest with you. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that console, like the way it looks, right? But like, it's a nice, sleek looking box, and I think Microsoft is really trying to make sure that not only are they over engineering the box on the inside, but they want the box to look like it fits in a modern living room, and I think that's where they have actually succeeded since the S debuted. So
yes,
yeah.
And kind of my thing with a little bit with the with SX, is that I'm holding, I kind of hold companies up to a standard, regardless if it's Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft. I kind of hold companies up to a standard, and I'm holding Microsoft and Sony up to this 4K 60 frames per second, and we can have a discussions and talk about that. But I kind of talked about like marketing that doesn't really do nothing to draw anybody in, if when in reality it comes to your actual product coming out and it's not there. And so at least with Nintendo, I know what I'm going to get, and the standard that I hope Nintendo to is, please do not follow any other trend. Continue to do your own. Make the games that you want to make. Change up the gameplay. You got a ton of well-known franchise and bringing in more new IP and everything. Yes, the content ID stuff was bonkers and everything in the past. But there's been just something about Nintendo and their games that it feels special in a way. They're just sharing it around the world. When it comes to Nintendo games, you can have a bigger discussion and everything. Not compared to Microsoft and Sony. You can have discussions about them, but those are more challenging discussions to be like, if let's not talk about the known, talk about something that you don't really talk about with those games, and let's have those conversations. Because we can have that with Nintendo. We could talk about the unknown and the things that we found and the level design and like hearing this and hearing that and stuff. And kind of feel like with Microsoft and Sony is that it's a challenge when I talk to other people about that. And that's kind of where my writing and everything came, was to not only put up my viewpoint and my look upon things, but give some options to it, which will lead into the podcast. To challenge people to be like, go outside the regular known discussion you're able to have, and let's have a different conversation that us mostly don't talk about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, look, you write about where your heart is, right? And that's, I mean, that's, look, I don't consider us experts by any stretch of the imaginations or insiders or anything, right? Like we just aren't, but we are passionate about the games we love and the systems we love and the companies that we love and that's why, like, a lot of people used to ask me why, like, I let you write stuff like that. And I'm like, why wouldn't I? Like, who cares? Like, I mean, you're allowed to have an opinion on something. It doesn't always line up with everybody else's. Like, stepping away from video games for a second. Sorry. But like the last Star Wars movie, right? The Last Jedi. Everybody apparently hates that movie. I liked it a lot, right? And I haven't seen the newest one yet, but it seems to be a pretty split movie, right? And
yes,
I think people are allowed to have their opinions, right? And I'm not going to say, you're wrong about something if it's an opinion, right? And that's why, on Nerds Gone Rogue and now Boss Rush, like, you're going to be allowed to write your opinion about something as long as it's like well thought out. And I'm not just saying just you, I'm talking about any one of us, right? Like, as long as it's well thought out, you have things to back your opinion in a constructive way. Like, that's what I think opinion pieces should be about, right? And
yes,
that's why I let you write whatever you wanted on Nerds Gone Rogue, because I believed in what you were trying to say.
And like I said, all my pieces that I write is to challenge. I do give my opinion about something. I try. There are some pieces that seem like I'm not disgusted, but that I know that a company that is known for doing great and quality work can do better, and they have to challenge themselves. They just can't settle for good sales and call it a day. That, to me personally, that's not serviceable. That doesn't make you grow as a company sometimes. And I kind of feel like, with my opinion, like I said, that it challenges people to respond in a way, or if they want to respond angrily or they want to hate it, they have every right to. You got every right to disagree with me. You got every right to hate the piece and call it trash or do whatever you want to. But it's out there. I just want people to take the time to like read it and kind of see my viewpoint of coming, because a lot of us in the gaming industry and on podcasts and internet, we don't have these conversations. We just don't. We could talk about the greatness of God of War, but then can I challenge you about some things of God of War? Can we talk about is God of War, the new one for PS4, are there shots that really feel like it's coming from a movie or cinematic? Can we talk about or relate it to maybe Japanese lighting and things of that nature? Can we have those conversations? And sometimes in the gaming community, we can't have them because we're too focused on I got a platinum or I did this cool boss fight and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I always admire when I get feedback, whether it's good or whether it's negative, is that people are taking the time to read it. If you could take the time to read it, and yeah, there may be some English mistakes. Okay, my brain and what I type is different. It's running about 100 miles per hour. That people take the time to just read it and take it in for a moment. And then if you want a rebuttal, yes, do a rebuttal to it. You know, go in the comments and say something. If you don't like it, you know, don't if you don't like it, be critical, but be in a respectable manner and everything. And you always have a chance to write a rebuttal piece to what I wrote, and I will read it and take the time to actually respond to it and everything. And I think that's one of the things that back in the past that people who kind of made these people who made some remarks about it, they never wrote anything they never wrote a rebuttal, or they never wrote anything on that level of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of always felt like, well, yes, I'm getting good feedback, but write something. You know, that's kind of what opinion pieces are. You know, it's something that you write or you view something and you want to speak on it. If you don't like one of my reviews and stuff, write an opinion piece about it, about why I'm wrong, and let me read it. You know, and we can always have a conversation. Now, I love having conversations, and I think that's why I love doing podcasts. I love having these one-on-one or these multiple conversations with different people about certain topics and certain things, because we get to express our views, and there's not an official right or official wrong. It's just good to know where people are coming from. And there are going to be times that, yeah, we might disagree, but we always could laugh later on.
I mean,
you know,
how many times have we disagreed? I mean, we've been doing shows for what, 4 years or something now, and like,
yeah,
how many times have we disagreed on stuff? You know, like, I bet at least once an episode we disagree on something. Yes. But like, you know, that's what makes good conversation. And you know, we live in a world where the internet just feels like a shouting match, right? Instead of like having the conversation, instead of, you know, oh, well, why do you think this way? And maybe, you know, if we have a decent conversation about it, I can see your point of view. I might not agree with it, but I can see why you feel that way as opposed to how I feel, right? Like, and we live in the internet age where everything has to be condensed into 140 characters, and it's a shouting match. And, you know, one person doesn't like this one person because, you know, they have a different opinion, right? And I think in this kind of post Trump world, right? Like, not to bring politics into it, but I feel like everybody's kind of like on edge a little bit, even, and that makes it even worse, right? And
yes,
and I'm not just saying that because, like, you know, I mean, the internet is a strange place. and that leads to why I started the beauty of video games. Why I take 3 weeks in September, and I got to be more successful in all my writings and podcast stuff. I take it
for 3 weeks to celebrate video games, to be very positive. One Piece is going to be talking about maybe some of the downfalls to it, but that's the beauty sometimes of failure. Failure sometimes can make you better. You know, everybody said the Wii U was a big failure to Nintendo, but look how they took that and made the Nintendo Switch, and how the success came out of that. I think a lot of people are seeing a lot of things what they missed about the Wii U into Nintendo Switch, and I think at that time period, I'm like, if you was not saying if you was a true gamer, but if you was a gamer who would give Nintendo a chance and their games, you kind of would have been mad at the developers of third party compared to what the content and how they treated the content on other platforms. Like, you kind of, Watch Dogs was supposed to be a killer game, and it was supposed to, because the Nintendo Wii U version got delayed for long, Ubisoft really thought they were going to make a lot on the other platforms, and so they just threw Nintendo to the side, and Nintendo had a backup with Mario Kart 8. Watch Dogs did well for the 4 systems that came out. I think they did 2 million, but people gave up on the game because what they showed wasn't what was delivered and promised. And you just see Mario Kart 8 racking up sales after sales. On top of, you got a free Nintendo exclusive of Mario Kart 8 at that time.
Yeah.
You know, I think if Ubisoft would have really treated the Wii U version like the other 4 and just brought all 5 versions out, I think people would have got the Wii U version along with Mario Kart. You know, and they would have been like, oh, they really made a decent game, and their 2 million, I kind of feel like would have jumped to about 4 or something million. You know, but it was what it was. But yeah, the beauty of video games, I just feel like I want to celebrate the greatness between Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, PC, mobile, different genres. Just like taking the time to not be so critical or be so negative, but to be happy about everything that we get from them and everything. And having guests on it, you know, you have guested on Optional Opinion about it. You actually gave the eulogy on one of them, and it was just good to have that one-on-one talk about why we love games.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah, and we did the episode on Roller Coaster Tycoon a couple months ago.
Yeah,
that you can actually see on Boss Rush Games right now. It's you know, it's yeah, it's a weird place, this internet, and somewhere that, you know, I hope that we can make better by being positive and having the conversations and stuff, because there's so much on the internet that is, you know, not good. Not saying there's not good on the internet. I'm not trying to say that, but like, I think a lot of people, when they think of Twitter, it's overwhelming. The negativity that they think about is more overwhelming than the positivity. And I think that, you know, that's why on Boss Rush we're saying play games, be better, right? Like just trying to be better. So
and I've even when people disagree with me, you can see a long yas comment, or you can see me showing love. And even if it's a game that is not suitable or it fits my thing, if you platinum, you got the achievement, if you got the physical version, if you post it up, I'm celebrating it because you got something that you worked hard for and that you love and was excited for. And my love is always going to be there. We can have conversations to disagree about anything, but if you put up Bloodborne 2 and just be like, I got the collector's edition, you see love and yes. And my thing is, have fun with it, enjoy it, take it in, and like really dig in and just get something out of it. That is what I love, and I will always be supportive about that.
Yeah, and you know, that's why, you know, over the years, I've tried to support you. You know, like I think I've done an okay job at that. There's some instances where I wish I would have done a little bit better in that regard, but you know, I think for the most part, like, you know, I'm trying to support your ideas. You know, even if I don't agree with some of them. You know, like I think that's what makes good content. So
Yes.
well, Ed, we're gonna switch gears a little bit here. It might get a little personal, but it's okay. That's what this is for.
That's fine.
You know, the internet, especially in the video game space, until, you know, very recently, has kind of been a, let's just say there's a lot of straight white dudes on the internet talking about video games. As people, if you can't tell by looking at me, if you're watching the video, I am a straight white man. Edward, you are not.
Yes.
How has that affected your content creation? Do you kind of put, you know, who you are and everything like into your content? Is that something that you feel you need to do? Is that something that you feel you do naturally? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
I think it comes out naturally. Because to me, first of all, I would say race doesn't matter to me. If you're a person who loves games, let me rephrase that. Race and gender doesn't matter to me. If you love video games, and even if you don't like video games and stuff, I love putting content out there if you're interested to hear it. When I put myself in it, you know, it's a natural thing. When I talk about preferences and things about that, I always try to view it, you know, from both sides, from a straight side, from a gay side. You know, as a bi person, I try to come at it at different ways and stuff. I actually, funny enough, actually before I never wrote this piece, but I have a 2-part thing from All Optional Opinions, is talking about can video games affect your sex life, and the goal of it was to talk to a person who is gay, a person who is straight, and a married couple, and really get their viewpoint on how games can bring people together and also bring it into the bedroom, because it was something that I thought was a cool idea and everything, and it was good to have those conversations. So when I put myself out there, I am to my work and stuff. It's just a natural thing and everything. So, and you know, I kind of wish that more people will just be happy with what other people are playing. It gets disgusting kind of when people are saying that a certain kind of person shouldn't play a video game, and I'm just like, you need to support that person to play games, and you need to support this diversity of people who are making games or making your favorite. Like, if you love Jedi Fallen Order, different kind of people came together to work on it and stuff, and so you shouldn't be mad if a gay person or a black person or an Indian person is playing their game and it's their favorite. They shouldn't be getting discussing comments or anything like that. You should be able to root them on whatever they play and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, like, that's like, it's a lot of the reason why I wanted to do content with you is because you are so different from me, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think you know, not only do your opinions like differ from mine sometimes, but like just your background and your voice and your who you are differs so much from me, and I think that makes interesting conversations as well. You know, I think
Yes.
because like honestly, like that's something I never really thought about a whole lot, right? As growing up playing games, like if I was playing, you know, I mean, like Mario is a white person, right? Like a lot of games that I played growing up starred usually a grizzled white dude, right? Like, and something I never even really thought about or paid attention to until probably the second Tomb Raider game for PS1. I was like, oh, well, she's cool, right? Like but even then I wasn't thinking about it. I was like, this is just a cool game, right? Like
Right.
You know, I mean, look, as a teenager, we all go through that where we're like, you know, oh, boobs, you know, like, or like, you know, whatever you're into, you go into that and you just kind of like, because your hormones are flying and whatever, you're a teenager. It's typical teenager stuff, right? And
Yes.
you know, you think about that, but you know, as I grew up, at least, like, I never really thought about race or sex or anything in terms of games, like, because I never needed to really, you know, like a lot of the characters, a lot of like it was just like, you know, I never came from it and came to a game thinking about it because I never had to, or like, you know, I was too busy playing Ninja Turtles or something stupid like that. But like, you know, a lot of the characters in Halo are white, right? Like a lot of like Nathan Drake is white, Lara Croft is white. Like I never really had to think about it the way that maybe like when you were playing games growing up, like did you think about stuff like that?
I've never thought about it because as a kid, games came from Japan. And so they had to make characters that was going to fit into that game. There wasn't a lot of Western developed games unless you were playing PC. It didn't really get into the PS1 area and a little bit later on until we got more games from America, more games from UK, more games from Australia, Brazil, different parts of the country, Africa and stuff, where because of the advancement of technology, we're able to tell different stories, have deeper themes, and be able to express more. When it came to video games, you had two choices. You had your console and you had your arcade. Your arcade, you were limited to how much money you have or your tokens. Who you were playing with, because there were various skills. What you were playing, because you had pinball also in there in the arcade and stuff. And you kind of had, you know, maybe a game that is one player or that may have something like really kooky or wacky from it. And all of those still came from Japan. And so race and gender and stuff really never really played a part because you were trying to survive on a token or you were trying to get a high score to put your name in. You was trying to better your skill. So you was doing other things that you as a player was trying to achieve. Definitely for me, my thing was I want to beat the game. So yeah, I did some cheat codes for some stuff. I'm a kid, you know, to see. But
Game
when
Genie.
Game Genie is another one of them. But then I really started to challenge myself, and it was just like, let me play this whole game fully through. And there were games that I put fully through. Rygar I played on the NES in one city. Bionic Commando, Sonic the Hedgehog 1, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. There was a lot of games. The original Mario Brothers, the Lost levels on Super Nintendo, playing different kind of role-playing games and stuff, getting my feet wet in just different genres and stuff. I was challenging my skill and trying to see where it could take me, and wherever it took me, I want to learn more to get farther. I think now in this modern age of gaming, scores and stuff kind of is still there, but kind of went away to kind of fill in the background. And it's all about connecting with what those developers are trying to speak to you. Um, I argue. I don't argue. I talk about the Last Guardian and why I think it's one of Sony's uh, best PlayStation game that I ever played, with Heavy Rain falling underneath it. God of War and Horizon also. Well, The Last Guardian, Horizon, God of War, Heavy Rain, and some of the other first party titles. But I think The Last Guardian just captured something about playing that game and really spoke to me, where I could just sit back and marvel at this connection, this relationship, because this felt like something that nobody was doing. And it's kind of probably been in other games, but there was something about seeing Chico jump out the water and just shake his whole body and everything, and you just treated him and rubbing his head and stuff, and just really feeling for him. And nothing about it felt cinematic. Everything just felt like connection. And this, and of course, I always call Team Eco Sony's Nintendo company, because they kind of did something different where all their other companies weren't doing, you know. And it just really spoke to me. And I think when games really speak to you, really have something that talks about this adventure and how it just resides in you after it's over. Games nowadays are really trying their best to do that. If you are a person who's going to be connected to that and stuff, if you want to draw meaning, it takes something out of it. And I think that's why when I do optional opinion, and when I do a writing piece, and maybe I'll talk about relationships, bisexuality and gender roles, and various characters, favorite women, and that I love in gaming and stuff, is that their connection and their impact has done something on me, and it's good that I get to be able to express that.
Yeah, it's good to like hear that from you, just because like it's something that you and I never really talked about. Mm-hmm. But it's also something I really never felt we needed to talk about, just because, like, honestly, it shouldn't matter, right? Like,
right.
all that shouldn't matter. But in the world we live in, it doesn't. It matters to people that it matters, right? But like, if everybody just normalizes it, like, I feel like we normalize it in a way because we don't talk about it. But it's not like we don't talk about it because we're ignoring it. We just don't talk about it because we know who we are, and like it just doesn't matter, you know?
Right. Some people have a thing about, you're supposed to be this type of gamer, and if you're not, I'm going to just throw opinions that differ from you real hard and stuff. Everybody always remember, if you are buying the game, that's your game, that's your money, that you use to it. No one can take anything away from you. Even if you're paying stuff on Game Pass, no one can take nothing away from you. So if you get discouraging opinions about what they view you as a gamer, continue to be a gamer. Continue to enjoy what you want to enjoy and have the fun that you want to have, because their words really hold no power over you or on you. Because guess what? I could say anything about Grand Theft Auto and about people who play it, but guess what? If you pay $60 and you're going to continue to pay $60 for the Grand Theft Auto series, do you and stuff. My viewpoint is not going to change anything about it. Who cares? like I always say, we could always have an argument about something, but the next week or pass down the line, we won't even be thinking about it. So, if anyone who says some disgruntled things about you being a gamer and what you love to play and what you love to enjoy, continue to continue to do you. Like I said, continue to buy the games. Me and Corey, we love the games that we love to play. He's heard me being kind of like disappointed in Destiny, you know.
Well,
But
we're all disappointed in Destiny sometimes, but that's a different story.
but well, but the thing about it is you had love for Destiny, and you are so equipped to it. So I came to you to have that option opinion, to have that discussion, because I wanted to learn, because I felt like personally for me, I'm missing something that I'm not getting. And I think the disappointment that happened with Destiny with me is that it felt like a washing machine game that it just kept doing the same thing over and over. When I got the weapon, a melee weapon, I enjoyed Destiny more. And I think that's kind of what happened, that if they would have changed things up in Destiny in the first one, I think I would have liked the game better. Now, I love Destiny 2. I think Destiny 2 is way better. There are some washing machine moments, but they added enough to it that I can find this acceptable and enjoyable and jump back into it whenever I want to. You know, I did buy the Shadowkeep DLC. I think I did. Yeah. And I can't wait to play it and everything. You know, it's weird because me and Corey will talk about Destiny, and the next thing you know, dude, I just played Destiny and the shooter feels good. You know.
Yeah.
You know. And that's kind of how, when I look at social media, when I put my stuff on Facebook or I put it on Twitter and everything, regardless of people react to it, whatever, I'm happy that I get to put that content out. I'm happy to talk about a game, whether I like it or not. Pick out these things, because I try my best, and sometimes I got to tell myself, just don't see the negative in things. Always see the positive. Have your pros and have your cons, and always be respectful against other people who want to say anything that they disagree about you, because I'm still going to love a person. I'm still going to respect the person. I don't pay your bills. You're not my child. I'm not your parent. I didn't raise you. You far away from anything that where I'm at and what I like to do. So, but I could still go out and show support and show love and stuff. And so when I see people just on social, sorry about that. When I see people on social media just attacking other people, it's not cool. It's not right. You know, if you have an opinion about something and you want to say something about it, be respectable and be critical about it. Be like, I can see where you're going, but that's probably one of my problems that I had. I don't know why they decided to do this, but if you feel like that it worked in the narrative for you, that's cool. And you leave it like that.
Yeah. Just leave it like that. All right, Ed. I'm going to ask you a few quick fire questions here to wrap up this 1v1. Man, this conversation I feel like this first episode was like, not that I didn't think it wasn't going to be good, but it went way better than because like sometimes like when you start a new show, sometimes they get in it takes a couple episodes to get into a rhythm, right?
Yeah.
But this one, happy with it. So, all right, Ed, a couple quick fire questions here.
Yes.
What is your favorite Nintendo console of all time?
Favorite Nintendo console of all time is going to be GameCube.
What's your favorite Nintendo franchise?
Favorite Nintendo franchise is the Mario Brothers.
What was the very first game you ever played?
Very first game that I ever played that I can remember is Pac-Man on the Atari 2600. Ooh. 7200.
Oof. What is the worst game you ever purchased?
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Ooh, ouch. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I got. That's all I got for you. What's the one thing you want to accomplish in the content that we're making right now?
The one thing I want to accomplish in the thing that we're making, I just want to continue to be exciting and not only new to us who are making the content, but new to everybody who is watching. I think it opens horizons. It better us as a gamer, our skill, and even if it doesn't work out for us, we hope that people tune in, laugh along with it, but also celebrate it because we, as the content creators, came together to make this content for your viewing pleasure.
Nice. The last question for the show. What's your favorite piece of content we've ever done?
Oh, our favorite content that we ever done. I always come back to E3, regardless of what showing it is. Whenever we get together and we talk about E3, it's always good to get excited with you guys about the new announcements and the reactions and this conference was this, but also be like, oh yeah, they had some cool games or they snapped or something, and doing that along with you guys is so much fun. Definitely the Nintendo Directs also got to include that because I still think the Nintendo Direct that revealed that Doom and Wolfenstein 2 was coming. Like I wasn't mad that I went to Milwaukee for a concert, but I wanted to do that Nintendo Direct reaction with you so badly because the level of hype and energy we both have was just like, what? What, can you believe this? Wait, what? Like yelling and watching it, it's just and going crazy with other people around the world, but coming together to be happy and just be like, dude, the Amiibo, this is coming out. Doom and Wolfenstein 2 hitting the Switch, and just seeing how we all come together and stuff. That's always my favorite time of doing content with everybody.
Nice. Well, Ed, this is usually the part of the show where we would ask the guest to plug their stuff. Is there anything you want to say or plug or do just to get it out there and make sure, people are listening, even though we're kind of doing it all already?
Yes. So everybody, I do a one-man podcast called Optional Opinion. You guys can check it out on SoundCloud, iTunes, other podcast apps. Do check out some of my past episodes and look forward to some new episodes. And to break down what Optional Opinion is that I normally take a topic that we normally don't talk about in the video game industry or on different podcasts, and I try to give my opinion about it, but while giving those opinions, always try to bring options to it. I always have some nice music interludes from around the world, from different people, from different games, and I do have some episodes that I have guests on it, and we try to have a open, free discussion. There is never no judgment. It's always laughs. It's always a good time, and if you want to get an idea of how a podcast evolves and stuff, definitely look at Nintendo Power Block. Look at our younger our content and look to now, because I think, and we talked about this even on Boss Rush and other podcasts, is that when you do a podcast or when you're doing content, it has to grow. When I was doing Optional Opinion, I was doing it with my friend, like I said, with Justin, and I was doing it, recording stuff with a headset. The quality wasn't right. I went through different various things to actually record my show and everything, and there's still some tricks and stuff that I did, but I've invested time and money into the show and everything. And kind of that's what I did with Power Block. And when I do with Arsenal X, what I do with the NX show, what I do with Boss Rush, when I do with World 11 podcast, and everything else, I always try to put time and money and effort into it. And I know a lot of my opinions differ, but it's really kind of good to hear someone who talks about things in a different manner. And whether it makes you happy, whether it makes you be like, wait, what, huh? Think about it this way. If no one else is talking about it and I am, let that be an avenue to be like, oh, that's a different point of view. That's cool. Oh, I love this track and stuff. And, that's what optional opinion is. The beauty of video games, like I said, I started that 5 years ago. And it's like I said, it's something to celebrate the great things about video games. And I try to do 3 weeks of writing and episode podcasts with various podcasters and do a eulogy. This year we did a Feeling Villainous, where we celebrated the beauty of being a villain and everything, and it was a good thing. Jesse Douglas, my co-host on Boss Rush podcast, he delivered the eulogy and did a fantastic job. So, and then there's other people on there. So, and then just check out some of my writing here on Boss Rush now. If you could still find any work that I did on Nerds Gone Rogue, you can find it there. I'm trying to bring back Hit 'em Hard, which is me taking a game and playing it on a hard difficulty for 5 levels. Hopefully Mixer is working now, so I can get back into doing that. And there's also a retro show that I'm trying to bring back, or I'm trying to do, playing some arcades and old retro games and delivering them out. If you guys are interested, we have me and Corey. We did Pod and Play. You can find that on YouTube. Nintendo, our indie showcase, where we talk about and showcase indies and stuff.
I'm trying to get those classic episodes up on the YouTube channel. If you are subscribed to Boss Rush's YouTube channel, and you're wondering why there's old content going up, don't worry. There's gonna be a big word that says classic content across the top. It's just, I'm trying to get our old content, all the stuff that we've ever done as a group, on various platforms there. So
yeah. And you guys can hear me on World 11 podcast on podbean.com. I co-host that with Larry Giver, Joshua LeGroux, Kathleen Johnson, Dylan, and some other people. We come together. We talk about video games. I used to be the host, but now I'm the co-host. I switch. And we just love coming together, having our discussions. And I think I talk a lot on that show because everybody sometimes disagree with me on things.
I think people just think you talk a lot anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm doing.
Podcast would suck if you didn't talk, right? I mean,
well, it's very weird. Sorry, this is the personal thing. As a kid, that I really didn't have too many friends, and when I walked around, I always had my head down, and my head was in books or in video games, and I was really silent. So to have this opportunity to podcast and speak about things and talk a lot, I think it came from that. I believe. But yes, I love gaming. I love everybody. And I love making content. So I hope you guys would check that out. And if not, hopefully it will always be there for you guys to check out. And I'm proud of the work that I get to do. And I'm proud of the work I get to do with this diverse team of gamers and content creators. So,
well, Ed, like I said, you are one of my best friends, and I love doing this stuff with you, and I'm glad we're starting this new content, and it's going to be a wild ride. I think 2020 is going to be a big year for us in general, and I think it's going to be think it's going to be fun. So
yes.
Yeah. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. Remember, you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/bossrushgames. You can follow us on Twitter at boss_rush_games. You can find our Facebook community at facebook.com/group/bossrushgames. We also have a Facebook page. You can like it there. And everything that you could possibly want to subscribe to, you can go to bossrushgames.com/subscribe for our podcasts, our YouTube channel, our social media stuff. It's all right there at bossrushgames.com/subscribe. Download the Boss Rush podcast, download Into the Power Block, download Standard Definition. Those are our 3 major platforms and 3 major podcasts. Check out our future content. And until next time, this has been 1v1.
Thank you, Corey, for having me on this episode.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Ed. And thanks for everything.
Bye, everybody.